A real man knows how to reward himself at all times. An 8th grade electrician only needs to take a bite, just to know if the power is out at home. This film appears to be a comedy but has a tragic core. Rated 9.2 on a certain website. Released in a country that no longer exists today. A 3-hour-long epic film. Contains too many political metaphors. I want pointed out, and you don't need to reveal it either. Otherwise, this video will be gone. Don't ever think this video is boring. Think about it carefully. It will definitely subvert your worldview. In 1941, Belgrade was baptized by Nazi artillery. The two brothers, Long and Hu, shouted revolutionary slogans. One rewards oneself in the midst of war. One flirts with Natalie in the ruins. Do you love me? Love. Come on, give me a kiss. But the actor is the most heartless person. When the Nazis appear, she turned around and accepted the invitation. As an 8th grade electrician, Chawangshi deeply abhors the Nazis. Those Nazis occupied the land. They even killed their people. But even more despicable than the Nazis are the revolutionary traitors. Chawangshi fought for the revolution. He stole the rich people's wealth. He seized the aggressors' weapons. And the traitors not only betrayed them, they also stole Chuangsis' money. That day, he found the poet Laxi. They broke into the clubhouse together. He wanted to play a game with the traitors. For the sake of fairness, they all placed their guns on the table. Then Chawangshi took out the gold jewelry and sat down to appraise it. Don't worry about how the guns disappeared from the table. Anyway, they will eventually fight. The Dragon and Tiger brothers are fierce. Not only do they not lose in fights, they can also take advantage in other ways. As the situation becomes more and more urgent, Laxi brought Chuangsis' whole family to the bunker. But Chuangsis' wife died in childbirth. Rarely does a wife die. Chawangshi hurried to Natalie's theater. Take advantage of the staff's inattention. Walk onto the stage with head held high. Force other actors to improvise. While his good brother Laxi sits in the audience. Enjoy the pleasure of gossiping. Chawangshi improvises. Tie Natalie up with a rope behind her back. Then shoot the Nazi officer. Successfully kidnap the bride with the help of his good brother. The wedding takes place on a boat. Although the bride is a little unwilling. But Chawangshi doesn't care about that. But Laxi takes advantage of Chuangsis' bathroom break. Develops inappropriate thoughts about Natalie. Faced with a sweet-talking poet, no woman can resist. But just at this moment, Chawangshi unexpectedly returns. Natalie suddenly becomes like a character from a Chong Yao drama. What's the point of fighting? Isn't it just about having more blankets? Can't 3 people also spend a good night together? The 3 of them reached a consensus in an instant. Little did they know that the Nazi officer didn't die. Instead, he led his troops to pursue them here. The fickle Natalie returned to the side of the Nazis once again. Lax's comrades' fierce counterattack resulted in a disaster. In the end, Chawangshi was captured. Laxi came up with a plan to cause chaos. It became uncontrollable. Chawangshi suffered unimaginable torture from the Nazis. And Natalie's brother, because of his sister, had the fortune of being treated in a mental hospital. To everyone's surprise, after the Nazis appeared, Laxi disguised himself as a doctor and ruthlessly killed him. At first, Natalie helped the young officer. But when the officer took his last breath, she decisively stood by Lax's side. Later, she rescued the severely injured Chawangshi. And thus, a conspiracy about the entire underground began. This is an underground fortress. Steam bath. Factory. There is plenty of human-powered electricity generation. They shout revolutionary slogans. Passionately making weapons. Only hoping to drive the invaders out of their own country. Little did they know. This was just a complete scam. In 1941, Belgrade was baptized by Nazi artillery. Many patriots went underground, making weapons in the dark for frontline soldiers. As the only person connected with the outside world, Lacy, he deceived his lover from Sichuan to come underground, enjoying the pleasure of sweet talk. Your lies sound so appealing. In 1944, the Allies bombed Belgrade that the Nazis failed to destroy. But Belgrade also welcomed liberation. Just a few years later, Laxi, because of his identity as a poet and patriot, became Tito's confidant. He held a high position. But he didn't pass on the news of victory underground. They are still producing weapons relying on their high revolutionary enthusiasm. They still regard Laxi as a hero. They believe he walks a dangerous path for the liberation of their homeland. He single-handedly supported the entire underground. Laxi always follows his own script. He paints a picture of the outside world for them. He even has informants adjust the clocks. Boxes of weapons are produced underground. He then sells boxes of weapons to the whole world. The underground comrades still wait foolishly for liberation. Little do they know. A lie runs through their entire lives. Laxi earns a fortune with a guilty conscience. And the price paid is nothing more than a pile of unpackaged dog food and a negligible conscience. Natalie repeatedly succumbs to alcohol and desire. In Lax's script, he is a hero. Natalie is a deeply tormented prostitute. Today is Kawase's wedding. Kawase is very happy as a father. But he discovered that Laxi and Natalie were overly intimate. At that time, Natalie couldn't bear the guilt. She used alcohol to numb herself. But she was already fickle. Alcohol not only didn't numb her, but it also aroused her inner desires. Laxi seduced Natalie to the warehouse with alcohol. He intended to continue the celebration of the wedding and handle the matter himself. But Natalie suddenly became sober. However, in the face of Natalie's accusations, Laxi was not afraid. He was originally a poet and politician. When it came to lying, it was a piece of cake for him. Your lies are really convincing. Just as the real date was about to begin, Kawase unexpectedly witnessed this scene. His good friend and comrade stole his woman. At that moment, his belief collapsed. So he did as he did 15 years ago, tied Natalie to himself. Then he left the gun to Lacey. Let him handle it himself. And Lacey held the gun to his head for a long time. In the end, he didn't have the courage to shoot. Just broke his legs. Under a frenzy, Lacey's brother's monkey climbed into the tank. The musician alerted everyone after discovering it. But no one paid attention. So the clever monkey loaded the ammunition. And then... At the wedding venue, a monkey climbed into the tank. The next second, cries and screams filled the entire underground. The monkey ran away. The keeper lost track of it. The bride jumped into the well. No one cared about all this. Chawangshi carried Natalie and his son on his back to find the Nazis desperately. But soon he realized. By the way, women have nothing to do with the revolution. Let us go. After releasing Natalie, Chawangshi said affectionately, "Wait for me. This time we won't be separated for too long." But after Natalie expressed a little reluctance, she turned around and ran away without a trace. After Chawangshi and his son came out, they were infuriated by the scene in front of them. 20 years have passed. They can still see Nazi officers in Belgrade. So they took the opportunity to assassinate them while they were urinating. Then they drove a small boat and followed the Nazi cruise ship. Little did they know that their homeland had already been liberated. This group of so-called Nazis are just actors. Afterwards, they sneaked into the theater secretly, taking advantage of the enemy executing prisoners. They also targeted and killed an officer. Then, while driving the car, they threw grenades like crazy. It was like the reincarnation of Huang Zhang in awakening mode. They killed with great pleasure. Finally, amidst the sound of explosions, they made their escape. This was the first time Kawase emerged from underground. He mistook a deer for a horse. He mistook the moon for the sun. It's dawn. Kawase is teaching his son how to swim. Suddenly, a helicopter came to capture them. Kawase thought the Nazis were attacking. He decisively went ashore and started the plane. However, he forgot that his son couldn't swim at all. That day, he lost his last loved one. The only person he cared about was his beloved Natalie. Little did he know, Natalie returned to Laxi after being separated from him. They buried the explosives on the ground. Then they activated the underground security alarm, taking advantage of everyone hiding in tanks. They detonated the explosives. They buried this secret completely under the ruins. 20 years later, Laxi became an arms dealer in a certain place. However, he didn't expect to be discovered by his brother who escaped from a mental hospital. A friendly greeting caused Laxi to die on the spot. Afterwards, the younger brother also committed suicide in the hanging building. The local armed forces captured Natalie. Please consult with superiors on how to handle these two arms dealers. The other party said. Burn it. And that person is Chawangshi. He has become the local armed leader. A long time later, Chawangshi returned underground. There is a well there. Inside, there is a bride. There is a wife. There is even their beloved band. That well leads to a paradise. There is Laxi and Natalie. It also has a fairy tale-like beauty. There was once a country. Its capital was Belgrade. It no longer exists. But its story will never end. The movie Underground ends here. This film is absurd and magical. The story inside, however, is being played out all over the world. There are many metaphors. There are also many reflections in reality. There are more details in the original film that I cannot explain. It's still the same sentence at the beginning. I won't point it out, and you don't need to mention it either. It's best to go and watch the original film. You will definitely have a deeper understanding. Alright, I am Sha Yu. Looking forward to our next encounter.